pjnet.tv. It is 9:01 on the East Coast, and we are standing by running our bumper. We are streaming, we are recording, and this is the place where everyday Christians share their walk with Christ. And we have our guest standing by. Let's count it down to Studio 8, starting now. Sorry about that. Good evening. Welcome. This is pjnet.tv. I was just turning the fans off so it won't make as much noise in here. It is always a pleasure to welcome a first-time guest to our big screen, and this will be first-time guest number 277. That is not the same as 277 episodes. That's 277 different people have come to this place where we share our walk with Christ. And tonight we have a special guest. Here she is. I'll bring her on the big screen. Connie Lee Barron joins us from her home out in the great state of, I believe, the Republic of Texas, where it's still kind of daylight out there. And I understand the kids, the grandkids, and the husband are out playing, splashing around, and they left you stuck in here with us.
Yes.
Well, you're just a nice person.
Pleasure.
You're just a nice person to let them do that. Tell them they're on next, and
yes,
that'll scare them. That'll work. Connie, I was reading over some of your particulars. I'm trying to figure out how you wound up here. Were you just Googling around and hit a link and wound up on the big screen, or did someone contact you?
Someone contacted me. Barbara contacted me.
Mm-hmm.
She had seen something that I had posted about a friendship and wanted me to come on and talk a little bit.
Well, what friendship was that? Do you remember?
Yes. My good friend Donna. We did not know this at the time, but our paths had crossed throughout the years. We found out that when I was in 4th grade and she was in 5th grade, we actually went to the same elementary school at the same time. But God didn't let our paths interact during that time. He had other things to work out in both of our lives. And then he brought us together again in a college classroom when we were both adults. And we both went to college late in life. We graduated in 2010. And it took me an 18-year journey to graduate, but I did it one class at a time while working and raising 3 kids. And then God still didn't. We had maybe a couple of conversations in class, but not a friendship yet. And it wasn't until I had gone through some hard times and she had gone through some hard times. And then she was in a university in California, an all-Korean university, in fact, even though she speaks only English. And I was here in Texas. And our paths crossed through social media. And we started talking. And before it led up to that, God had really intrigued me with missionary work and the things missionaries do and things like that. And I didn't know how that would play into my life. And so he introduced me to my friend, and she's been a blessing. And she lived in China for about 10 years and was a missionary there. Right before COVID hit, she came back and she's still here. Lucky for me, not lucky for all the other people. And she's like one of my best friends. She will tell me when I'm not doing things right. She'll tell me when I am. She'll be my best cheerleader. And it was a God thing. God knew we both needed to get to a point before we had that friendship become more.
Now, I heard you say, or I think I understood you to say, that you spent 18 years pursuing a college degree.
Yes, I
that
did.
sounds like some people I know, but they were just stupid. or they were just bums and wanted. Now, was college sort of a hobby, an extracurricular activity, or were you very purposed and you just had to work that in with the rest of your life?
I was very purposed. I love learning. And I originally went to college. I'd been in healthcare since high school. And I really originally went to college to become a nurse. And so I was working towards that I would have to take a class a semester and then maybe take a couple semesters off, depending on what all the kids were doing in their lives at that time. And through it, I think I changed majors 3 times. I finally decided I did not want to be 40-year-old nurse working nights and weekends, that I wanted to be a teacher. And so I went to school and studied early childhood education. And that's where I first met my friend, and really talked with her some. She was going to school to do the same thing. And it was during my internship. I was going to graduate that year, and it was during my internship that my husband got really seriously ill, and he almost died from a blood clot in his lungs. And that required a year of physical therapy and not working. I'm trying to graduate. I didn't know where God wanted me. It was during that time that I began wondering if it was for God's purpose that I was to be a teacher, or if in fact I was supposed to be doing something else. And that was a very hard thing because I was in my last semester. This was 2009, and I was due to graduate in 2010, and I had started college in 1993, I think it was. 92 or 93, when my youngest daughter was in kindergarten. So I remember thinking, I can't do this. This isn't what I'm supposed to do. And I told my husband. He wasn't as happy, of course, because he was injured and he wanted me to get the job and work. And so it was one of my friends said, that's the bravest thing you ever did, was stopping what that was, because you felt like God wasn't leading you down that path. And so I ended up taking a lot of gerontology classes and learning about the elderly. I'd always been fascinated with children and the elderly and how they can enrich each other's lives. And it was during that time that I found myself ill and I had to have surgery. But I still graduated on time and all of that. But suddenly I'm thrust and I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Here I have an ill husband. I had an empty nest. All 3 of the kids had moved out. And I was grieving the loss of my father. And one of my good friends decided to end our friendship and never told me why. And so it was during that time that I just decided something's got to give. And it was during that time, I had been a Christian since I was 8 years old, but I had never really, I wouldn't go to church and come home, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And never really read the Bible or prayed or anything. And so it was during that hard spell that I remember pouring my heart out to God and journaling, writing, blogging, everything. I'd loved to write since I was a little girl. And God taught me during that time. He said, I can be your father. You're grieving your father, but I'm not just this almighty deity. I love you, and I can be your dad. You can look at me that way. And for the first time, I'm like, wow, this mighty God is interested in me, in my life. He wants he had pursued me most of my life, I guess. And so that wasn't the end of it. I just got to where I would thirst and hunger for scripture. And the more I just could not get enough of it. And I would just blog my feelings. And it was then that I was mourning the loss of my friend. And I had had all those changes and I was so lonely. And I learned that Jesus was my friend. He's like, I'm walking here beside you. You can confide in me. So I got to where I would tell God and, well, Jesus, whatever I was going to tell a girlfriend. If I was mad, I got mad, but he loved me anyway. And he says, I can love you more than your earthly father ever could. I can be a better friend to you than anybody. And I'm going to walk this journey with you. And together, we're going to help you be the person I created you to be. And so I just decided all the things I'd been journaling and blogging that I needed to write. All my friends, my parents, my mom, everybody said, you need to write a book. And along the way, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm meant to write a book or if I'm just meant to pour my heart out on social media, and blog posts and journaling. I've started a card ministry, and I know a lot of people, me included, I miss snail mail. I love to get cards and letters in the mail, which I really don't get very often. And so I thought, how wonderful would it be to hear somebody, to hear a need, to learn something through social media, through church, and just send someone a card just to let them know you care. Encouraging. I basically had started a Facebook group for women who were needing to walk the journey, and we were there to grow and walk with one another and share things with each other, pray for each other, and things like that. And then I remembered that my daughter, when she was 3 years old, had taught me a good lesson. And one day I kept telling her, you need to clean your room, you need to clean your room, you need to clean your room. Finally, I said, why haven't you not cleaned your room? And she says, in this little 3-year-old voice, said, perhaps I need reading glasses, Mommy. So basically, she was telling me that she really wasn't hearing me, even though I kept saying it. And so that connected with me. And I thought, I know one day I'm going to write a book, most likely a devotional book with a compilation of all the things I've written. And I want it to be something about sometimes we need hearing glasses. And a lot of people probably do not understand what that means. But for anyone who's ever wore glasses, or for anyone who has reading glasses on, a lot of times when you're listening to people, you can't really hear them if you take your glasses off, because you're looking at them, you're reading their facial expressions, you're reading their lips. I think COVID and the mask and all that kind of took that away from us a little bit. And so I like to think of hearing glasses as that moment that God shows you something, and it just you're kind of like, okay, God, I get it. And I found I'm an amateur photographer. I love going to nature, and I love snapping photos and putting Bible verses to them. And it's just my way of showing how God is in nature. If I hear a bird outside my window, I'm thanking God. God, thank you for reminding me that you're taking care of this for me, because I may have been praying about something. And just things like that. and just random little things in nature. It's just amazing. My husband and I, we have some raised garden beds out back, and we've been working on our garden this year. We're growing so many fresh vegetables, and they're just growing like crazy, and we cannot wait. And I see God's hand in all of it. And to me, I just love that. And that's kind of like I created a new group called Hearing Glass Moments, because it's those moments, those tiny little glimpses that you get where God's like, you're going to be okay, or I'm going to take care of you. And so I'm hoping that that group grows a little bit, and that one day I can write that book that I told my little 3-year-old daughter I was going to write. And it's just amazing how God shows you how much He loves you. I want women to know that you are more than who people say you are. You are loved by God. You are beautiful. Um, there's nothing you can do that will take that love away, and people will let you down. Um, One of the things that I learned when God ended that friendship was that that was a way of restoring my marriage. Um, the person I was friends with liked to do what people might call husband bashing.
Hmm.
She was so angry with her own husband that she was constantly belittling him, and it was making me look at
Hmm.
my husband differently in ways that's not God honoring. And so it was after that, it was during that time when God was showing me He's my father, He's my friend, and all of the things that He is. He was showing me, you know, I've created everyone in my image. And your husband, friends, people you come into contact with them, you need to see them as I see them. And so that really helped so much. And my husband gave me permission to share that part. And it just has really helped. My husband and I have been married 42 years this August. And we were babies when we got married, and we've grown up together, and we just love doing life with each other. And I, at this point, I'm kind of at a loss for words.
Okay. Well, you've said some things that I'm really interested in, Connie, and I'm very impressed. Um, from time, I plead with people, to project outward. Uh, this going to church stuff is fine, but it doesn't frighten Satan that we go to church.
Yes,
It's when we project outward. You said earlier that you have a card ministry,
yes,
and I am so hungry to hear more about that. Because, see, this is something that everybody can do, but almost nobody does do.
right,
And I think many people out there are intimidated that they're not good enough. They don't know the answers. They don't have enough training. They don't have any opportunities. Those are lies. Okay, we're told to make
right.
disciples. So, would you share with me specifically when you say you have a card ministry? How do you figure out? Okay, there's the target. I want to send. How do you find people to send cards to? How do you get their addresses? What is the nature of the cards? Tell me in more depth and fill in all the gaps, because somebody
Okay.
out there may hear this and say, you know what, I could do that and I should do that.
Well, I started collecting cards, different kind, and I'm not real artistic. I thought of making mine, but I got a bunch of greeting cards, different kind, and I have stickers and markers and all real kindergartenish things. Sometimes I will do, and so I'm on social media, and I may hear a friend has lost their father or is going through a really hard time, or our women's ministry at church in our group, someone may share some hard times they're having. And so if I do not have their address, I will simply just send them a message and say, could I please have your home mailing address? And I don't really say anything more than that. And they give it to me. And then I send them a card. And I've kind of started keeping a record because I really want to know who I sent a card to and why.
Mhm.
And I found that that kind of is something that needs to be done more, like you said. Um, People are really surprised to get a card in the mail or a letter in the mail and things like that. And it's even where my granddaughters have come to me and said, Grammy, we have somebody at school. We want to get one of your cards and your stickers and all of that. And I'm like, okay, here you go. And then they do that. So I love seeing that they're doing that as well. And it's something that you can do. It's very simple. And I had a lot of things that I had got, and I didn't need them all. And so I would pray. I'd gotten a lot of Christian subscription boxes. And so I'd gotten a lot of journals and devotionals and things like that in them and books and just little trinkets, necklaces, bracelets, things like that. And I have a whole box of them. And so God puts it on my heart of who they belong to. And I will just either include them in the letter, I'll give them to them at church, I'll give them to them when they see them. I'll say, I really think I will tell them something about it's something I wanted to share with them. A couple of times I said on one of my Facebook groups, I have some extra Bibles. I'd really love to give some Bibles to whoever needs them. And people would message me and I would just mail them the Bibles. And so I've learned through the years that sometimes just giving a Bible is one of the first steps that you can do in helping someone grow in Christ. And teaching them that the Bible is not some book that's overwhelming that you can't understand. I think by doing the Bible verses with that, it helps there. And like for instance, my nephew passed away at a very young age, and I was able to put some of his pictures together with some verses and things like that and help create a slideshow for them for his memorial. And during that time, my brother was completely unable to focus, and it fell to his young daughters to plan this memorial. And so my nieces came and approached me and said, will you please speak at his memorial? And I was like, I cannot speak in front of people. I just can't do that. And so I had wrote some things down on an index card, and I had told him, okay, I'll do it. And it was total God that was doing it, not me. I will tell you that right now. When I got up there to speak, my nieces, their spouses, step nephews, step nieces, everybody came up there and surrounded me with me while I spoke. And that was so comforting. And I just really love being able to see young people that are also offering that encouragement to people. And I think there's so much stuff nowadays going on in the world that people really need encouraging words. They need to know that God may not be the God that they remember from their childhood, but He is a loving God, and He loves them regardless of who they are or where they are. And every day I pray. I have some people close to me that do not know God. And I just pray and pray and pray. God, if nothing else, my one plea is that they will come to know you as I do, that they will get this personal relationship with God and see how wonderful it is to live that life as a Christian. And so, just the ministry, the card ministry, is just something God had put on my heart. And I'm hoping that I kind of got really bad at it lately. And I'm really hoping that I can really start putting forth more of an effort with it in the days to come, in the years to come, and see others because of that. Maybe they'll send a letter to somebody, because I'm old school. I love letters. I love cards. I love all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Connie, I don't think I get more than three, maybe three or four personal cards or letters in the mail a year.
Hmm.
How many do you get?
Exactly. I really don't get any unless it's Christmas.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just
Yes.
Christmas, birthday, from maybe one or two people.
Right, right.
So, about how many a year do you send?
When I'm doing it as I should, I try to send about 20. I really want to increase that number. I want to start sending at least 2 to 3 a week, because it's very important. And during the pandemic, I kind of got away from going into church, and I
Mhm.
watched it more at home. And I've been going back, and I'm really hoping to see more of a need and see more people coming through the church that are really needing that encouragement, or even if they're just new, letting them know you matter. We saw you, we see you,
Mhm.
we want to walk the journey with you in whatever capacity that looks like. And so that's just one of the things that are real important to me, and something that's just really simple to do.
Connie, don't let me overstate the case, but let me try to wrap my head around something you said earlier.
Okay.
Losing your father was like losing an anchor in your life. Is that?
Yes.
But is it possible that through that you discovered your real anchor?
Yes, most definitely. And there is I'm glad you brought that up, because my father had early onset Alzheimer's. He was in his 50s when he started losing his memory. And on top of that, he got cancer the last year of his life. So he was hit with two double whammies. And I remember waking up, and it's really the first person that was that close to me that went through something that tragic. And just seeing my dad forget people and things. And I remember walking that journey. I journaled all through it. It was the only way I got through it. I would work full time, and then I would leave and go with my stepmom to all my dad's medical appointments, because she needed someone else to go with her to handle him. And so I journaled and journaled and journaled. And during my journaling, I poured my heart out, and I'm like, God, if daddy has to have Alzheimer's, why does he have to have cancer too? And it was so difficult. Um, but the most difficult thing was not knowing if my dad was saved. We went to church as kids. A lot of times we rode the bus. Sometimes my mom would go with us. My mom's dad was a pastor, and my dad didn't go to church. He probably went once, maybe twice when I was growing up, but he never really discussed that. And so my one plea to God during all of it was, please let me know if daddy is saved, or please help me to talk with him. And it was February. My dad passed away in June. He had not been talking. He had completely lost his capabilities to speak. And I would still, he didn't live too terribly far from me, but at night I would call up on occasion and see how he was doing. And he was just listening one night, and I was talking to him, and I finally got the courage. I found talking to your dad about God is one of the hardest things that I had to do. And so one day I just asked Daddy, I said, Daddy, I said, do you believe in Jesus? Well, I think I said, do you believe in God? And my dad, who had not spoken, said, yes, I do. And then I took it one step further and I said, Daddy, do you believe that Jesus died for you? And he said, yes, I do. And then in just a few words, because I had often thought of my dad as being childlike at that time. And I know it says, if they're childlike, it might be a little bit easier. And so I think God allowed that moment for me. And I don't even remember what else I said to him, but I do remember my stepmom getting on the phone after I told my dad good night. And she said, what did you say to your daddy? He is crying his eyes out. And so that to me was better than anything God could do for me while my dad was ill, was showing me that, yes, Daddy could still hear and he could still comprehend. So much so that he was overwhelmed at the thought. And it just was such a wonderful feeling. And I remember the day before my dad died, I had gone over there, and I often journaled by his bedside. And that day I decided to bring my Bible. And this was before cell phones. It was about 17 years ago. I think there were cell phones, but I certainly didn't have one. And so I couldn't look it up on my phone. So I brought my Bible, and I sat down by his bedside, and I started reading to him from Ecclesiastes. A time to be born, a time to mourn, and et cetera, et cetera. And as I was getting ready to leave that day, I said, Daddy, I love you, but it's time for you to go. And I said, I think God needs you to come there now. And so I left and went home. And he passed away that next morning. And that was the last time I'd seen my dad. So it was
Thank you for
June
sharing that.
26th of 2005.
I know it's hard, Connie, but thank you. I know that hopefully someone will be encouraged by your testimony. Well, I'm glad we had a little extra time to share tonight. And Connie, it's been a wonderful experience just having you pour out and share what God's doing in your life. And I hope that we'll get together again.
I hope
And
so too.
you set a goal of sending 2 to 3 cards out per week. That's about 100 to 150 per year.
Yes.
So I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna put you on the spot next time we come together, and I
Okay.
hope that will be soon. That you will
Me
be on
too.
track with that, and I want to see those stickers you're talking about.
Okay.
So send me some pictures of that, and maybe we'll
I
convene
will.
again, and hope that through your words that people out there have been challenged
Yes.
to do just a simple thing, send a card. It's not hard, but it sure means a lot, or can mean a lot. God can use. There's another little simple idea that every now and then I offer some evangelism tips. It's not that I'm the evangelism expert. It's not that I do all these things, but in this world today, we pay our bills electronically,
Yes.
and I do too. But I make an effort to pay bills snail mail. And you know what you can do? What that means is that someone on the other end has to open that.
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't we put a little card or a letter or just a note inside? Because whoever it is that sees that, they need Jesus. They either know him or they don't.
Right.
And what better way to do things? How many of us get that junk mail?
Right.
That has the postage paid return response envelope. Well, don't send whatever it is they're selling. Don't put that in there. Put a note.
Right.
Someone has to open it. It's a human being. Okay. And the postage is paid in that case. So
Right.
Why not? But I hope that you have challenged others. I know that I can testify that PJNet sends a card to all first-time guests who, as long as they'll give us their snail mail address, and we've never had anybody withhold that. And it's just, I'm a high-tech guy. I'm a high-tech redneck. But you know what? We don't need to be so high-tech that we can't, how long it takes? Nothing. I mean, it's a couple of minutes. What a nice way to invest not only in the lives of others, but in the kingdom of Christ. Connie, I'm inspired, and you have encouraged me, and I hope that you have encouraged others. And it has been a pleasure having you share with us tonight. And tell your daughter, your 20-year-old daughter that helped you get ready and get all this done, she did a great job. Okay. And we appreciate the team on your end over there.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Well, folks, that was Connie Lee Barron, and that will wrap it up for me and for this week for me here on pjnet.tv. Now, it doesn't actually mean we're not on the air tomorrow night. We are. But on Friday nights, Steve Hazards gives me a break, gives you a break from me, and me a break from this. He starts about 9 o'clock Eastern with some jazz and some retro songs, but then at 10 p.m. Eastern, he has his regular program called My Perspective and Comment, and it's become quite popular. And I hope that if you have a chance, I hope that you will come visit us. I always look forward to it. And so many good things. Oh, by the way, we've got a whole bunch more coming up. Next week, is the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference, and our associate producer, Barbara, is scrambling around trying to get people scheduled who are not going to the conference, because many of our guests will be there, many of our PJNet family. And so check out our schedule at pjnet.tv. As I leave you for tonight, and I'll see you again Monday night, we'd love to have you come visit. I'll leave you with 2 questions to ask yourself. And they go like this. Question number 1. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Yeah, it could be writing a card to somebody and sharing, it doesn't have to be life-threatening. What is the boldest thing you've done for Christ? Second question. How long ago was that when you did it? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.